What's up, everybody, man? This is Real Talk podcast where real men have a story, and this is ours.
Yes, it is.
Real men
yes, sir.
talking.
So we are all cousins, and we're coming together to do something very special, do something different that we see is going on in our social media platforms right now. And each and every one of us has a perspective. Each and every one of us are fathers, we're husbands, we work, we got businesses. There's so many things that we're doing, and we want to be able to give a different perspective to what the world is presenting. My name is Tony Henry. I am I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a business owner. I have my own brand called Change Expression.
Shout out and change.
I've been a brand since 2019, and I'm in my fourth year doing really, really good. My wife is a wonderful, phenomenal makeup artist, and she's also a business owner. And then my daughter, she's just a phenomenal talent.
Shout out to I Dare You.
Yeah, I Dare You makeup artistry.
I dare you.
And my daughter, Holly J, who is just a phenomenal, phenomenal talent, man. She's a beautiful person inside and out, and I can't wait to see what God does with her. And then we're going to go to you, James. Let people know. Give them an intro of you.
All right, cool. This is James.
Bishop James.
Reverend.
Don't forget the bishop.
Reverend.
Don't forget the bishop.
I appreciate that for sure. But yeah, you know, father as well. Married for 11 years now. We have four.
Wait. You're not going to walk past that. Like, 11 years?
11 years. This is our 11th year. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My wife and I just celebrated 12.
12 years? Okay,
Yeah,
you
man.
one up this?
Yeah. So y'all was out. Okay, we're going to get into that. Okay, go ahead, Mom.
All right, so yeah, let me get my vitals. Let me get my real man vitals out. Married, a beautiful wife, Tanisha. Are we saying names?
If you want to. That's
Four kids, 16-year-old son, Jaden. Gonna be celebrating his 17th
God,
birthday
you got
next
4
month.
kids?
I do.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that. That's a long story. We're gonna get
That's
there.
a lot of kids.
2 boys, 2 girls, and you know, I love them with all my heart. Before I met them, I loved playing basketball. Still love playing basketball for my profession. I work in food and beverage industry, and my wife, she works in the healthcare industry. So just doing life together. Happy to be here with you guys here, and that's me.
BJ, what's up, man?
What's up, y'all? My name is BJ. Barry Jr. to be exact. Shout out to Barry Sr. Bear for short. Also a husband, coming up on 3 years this year.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Shout out to baby Lena back at home. I have 3 kids, a girl and 2 boys.
Shout out to the men.
3 kids in 3 years.
3 kids. 3 kids and 3. Hey, 0 to 100.
Real quick.
Real quick. Shout out to COVID, man. Shout out to COVID. COVID just leave things alone, man. Hey, come on, man, and catch up to life.
That's crazy.
What else? Yeah, I work in the insurance industry. I also am a musician, play the drums. My wife, thank God, is a stay-at-home wife and a mother right now. Thank God. Praise God. And just glad to be here, man. I'm excited about life, excited about what the future holds, excited about chopping it up with the brothers, the cousins, the fellas, and excited for the impact that we're going to have.
Amen.
My
Last but
name
not
is
least,
Tyrell. Call me
T.Y.
T-WHY question mark, because I got a lot of questions. But anyways,
Is that your handle? Did you just shout out your username?
that is my handle. It's actually at TL Hickman 1 on Twitter. Look me up. Shout out to all of the fellas in the world, loving on life and loving on people. I think that ultimately, that's my job in the world, is to love on people and show people what love really looks like. But yeah, going on 12 years married. to my beautiful
Congratulations.
wife, Lorianne Hickman. Shout out to HH Graphics. That's her business. That's the business. That's the business. That's what's making life different for us. And yeah, we've been together for almost 12 years. It'll be 12 years on December 31st. So we excited to be living. My profession, professionally, I'm in sales, but generally I'm in the business of teaching and educating. So that's really my world. That's my world right there. I was kind of born into education. I happen to have a degree in education as well. So, but that's my life. I like to teach. And did I miss anything?
How many kids you got?
I got 3 kids, all boys.
There you go.
You about to slide past that like you ain't got kids.
All of my kids is TY. So they got questions too. They got a lot of questions.
It's in the blood.
Got a lot of questions. Ridiculous. So I got Tyrell Jr., Tyler, and then Titus, all TY. TY, RELL, TYLER, and TY.
You know he did the same
TUS.
thing his mama did, right?
Yes, we came from the T family, so we left with the T's. We lead it with the T's. I don't know if we're gonna have another one now. That's the question. She wanted.
That is a question.
She wanted the girl.
She wanted the
She
girl.
wanted a girl. I told her I wanted 9 kids when we met. She said I was crazy.
I heard that story too.
Yeah, I told her.
Yeah.
Do you still want 9 is the
I
question.
still want 9. The goal is to have $100,000 for each one of my kids. So I'm way behind the 8 ball on that. But we're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there.
You know what? Don't even worry about it. I got questions for you. Anyway, so listen, this is everybody. It's like I said, it's an honor and privilege to be here. So this is what we're going
kids,
to
by
do.
the way. That's $900,000. So that's the goal.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. But right now, so we all agreed to do a story of the day, a real life story, right? And I'm gonna kick it off. So today, I was at home, and my wife and I came up. You know, just we've been going through a lot. You know what I'm saying, and experiencing some trials and tribulations that one would leave if they didn't have the strength and the courage to stay. You know, they didn't have their faith in God and all that, and those things. So, as I was just thinking about today I was just thinking about the impact that we are going to make as men in this world, especially with a lot of things that's going on with our kids, in our government, you know what I'm saying, in our church. It's so much going on that we don't really see real men having real conversations that is going to challenge the status quo. And I was just telling my wife I'm nervous. I was like, I'm nervous. You know, I know that when we get together, we have phenomenal conversations. We don't mind talking about stuff, but you know, actually about to do this and send it out there to the world, I was a nervous wreck today. And she said something to me that literally had me in tears, had both of us in tears rather. She said, babe, you got this. And I had on my Just Run With It t-shirt today. She said, this was something that you wrote down. There's a reason why you and your cousins are coming together now to do this. We could have did this a long time ago, but there's a reason why we're doing it now. And she proceeds to tell me about, you know, her cousins and the life that they lived. They both grew up without fathers, just like me. You know, they grew up in unstable homes. You know, they didn't grow up with what I had, even though I was fatherless. And she literally said to me, you and your cousins are about to change the world. Y'all are about to do something that is not done in a major way. And I literally was like, I'm good now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good because, you know, Father's Day is coming up. Matter of fact, we're going to edit that out. Father's Day is now, because we're releasing this on Father's Day. So Father's Day is now. And a lot of things that we're doing in this world, we don't get the recognition as men about what we do, how we stand, you know, saying the trials and tribulations that we go through in life. And Father's Day is that day that is really, really overlooked. I think I looked at the statistics, and it says that Father's Day is the 15th most celebrated. So we're like down there.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit worse than that.
I want to say about we're at 15.
Yeah.
Could be lower, but either way, that is still bad. Which means there's a lot of misrepresentations out there about men, about fatherhood, about manhood. So let's start this off. What is fatherhood to you? Anybody can go. That's the question. What is fatherhood to you, and how has fatherhood changed your life? What is it to you, and how has it changed your life?
I guess I can start a little bit.
You got 3 boys.
Well,
and you want 9 kids.
I got 3 boys, but I have 2 fathers. And
Let's get it. Let's get it.
being able to say that you have two perspectives from your real father, who's a great man, Robert Hickman. Shout out to my dad, and then my stepdad.
Shout out Uncle Bob.
Exactly.
Let me tell you something. Let me say this before you start. I used to hate getting those knuckle sandwiches, man.
Oh yeah.
He used to get me in the headlock every time he see me, and then I hated that.
So what he used to do to me?
Yeah, the palm.
He used to grab this little question mark on the back of my head. My head's still big, but this one I had no hair.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just grab it right
Let
here.
me tell you something.
As question mark head.
Question mark head. And he'll do that right there.
I just used to argue. I'm talking about every time he get me in that headlock. There you go. There you go. I hate
Got
that.
that grown man strength.
I'm talking about that. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so I got my real dad. That's my father. I call him my father. That's Robert Hickman. And then I got my stepdad. I call him my dad. And that's Hank McDaniel. And I just kept looking at from their perspective, especially I would say for my stepdad coming in to take over the reins of the household, and understanding that my father is still in my life. I guess it's an interesting place to be in. I know that a lot of stepfathers that are out there that, they're dealing with this woman that they love, but they don't really have the role of a father per se. I know he can attest to that, being a stepdad. But at the same time, that role is a responsibility that's still there. And I think that both my father and my dad, they played their roles very well. And I guess to answer your question more specifically, fatherhood is responsibility, and taking on the responsibility regardless of how you feel, or what you want to do, or how your significant other feels, and being able to take on that role and move into that space without question. You have to be able to take over that role as a father or a dad, and really there's no excuses in the fatherhood space. You got to get the job done. You have to be there, even when you can't be there. You have to be there, and you have to play that role without mistake. And yes, we are imperfect people, so we're always going to make mistakes, but the expectation is that there are no mistakes to be made. You have to play that role, and you have to be ready to father. You have to be the father. I think, when we look at it from a heavenly perspective, love is obviously the primary role in fatherhood, and that's the most overlooked part of the world, that they don't see what a father's love is. And I think that we get so caught up on the emotional side of life that we forget about the logical side of life. The logical side is where most men live. The logical side is how we express our love. And it's not an easy place to be because we live in a very, very emotional world. Very emotional. And so yeah, I mean, hopefully I was kind of able.
No, man, that's good stuff.
I was able to kind of touch on what it really means to be a father, being a father of 3 boys, and understanding that emotions will run high regardless of what you feel. You have to be there, you have to be responsible, and you have to get things done.
We're gonna get back to that. We were definitely gonna ask those questions.
That was good, man.
That was phenomenal.
good.
Yeah, you said a lot. Definitely said a lot.
But I really want to hear your perspective. Being the stepfather, what does fatherhood mean to you? Because you actually stepped into that role in a major way, and then you built a family on your own. So, how does fatherhood? What does it mean to you in that aspect?
Yeah, for me, my first experience with fatherhood was, for myself, was as a stepfather. My wife had a child before. I met him when he was about 4, and I'll always be thankful for that. That was my first opportunity to be the father that I didn't have growing up. That was always the goal. I wanted my own family.
So wait, you didn't have your father growing up?
No, I didn't grow up with my father, and that was always a place of longing for me. Just when I would have different moments in my life, I remember, joining my first basketball team. I remember graduating from high school, going to college, getting married. I would just try to reach out to my dad, through Facebook, some kind of social media. It just never connected. We would have conversations here and there, but it just never took off how I would want it to have been. And that just became a driving force in my life to be what I didn't have. And even throughout that though, I've always benefited from having a stepfather. Even though my biological dad wasn't there, as my mom went through life, I always had a stepfather, and I'm always appreciative because they were able to pour into me when I needed those things. So I kind of knew that when I met my wife and my son Jaden, that I had to play a role. He still had his father in his life, so it was a very interesting dynamic, and I appreciate even his biological father for allowing me a place to come in, because a lot of times those situations aren't like that. And that was my first opportunity, and he just kind of welcomed me and made it a great experience to where I was able to have a foundation. I wasn't perfect, this was something that, especially with not knowing how to love on your son. I knew I needed it when I was growing up, but I didn't know how to give that. So I had to learn how to give that. And, it took some years, probably about 7 years before my wife and I had our first child. And, I'm always thankful for being able to grow up with him and for him to accept me as a father. That made it easier for me to learn how to be a father for my daughters, Justice and Lyric, and then my baby boy, JP. So that was something that I cherish, I still hold on to. I remember wanting 5 kids, early on. I love basketball. I wanted to have a basketball team. But life happens, things happen, and, we're happy where we're at. And I do my best, like you said, to play that role. Step in, step up. So I definitely want to encourage stepfathers out there, even if you feel like sometimes your role is overlooked, or maybe you don't have a say-so with the mom who has the biological son. Your role is still important. You said something earlier about staying. I think there's power in staying, especially as fathers, one, but even if you're a stepfather. So just stay in that child's life.
I love it.
In
I love it, man.
my experience with many people, and speaking of people What the story that you just said about longing for your father is very consistent. And I don't know about you, I know you kind of go through that same experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Longing for your father is the most consistent story that I've gone through when speaking to people. Fatherhood is one of the, like, it's so overlooked, and we don't hear about this very much because of the emphasis on mothers. We very rarely understand the impact that a father has
Big facts.
on the world, especially in I guess you would say in the community, from a community standpoint. People long for their fathers, and for the fathers that are out there that may be missing in your children's life, please understand that your children are longing for you.
They're longing for you because
And-
that's your seed.
Yeah, and
That's your seed out there, looking to
it
be watered
doesn't
by
matter
you.
how long it takes for you to connect. Do what you need to connect with those kids, because they are longing for you. They do want your attention.
Whether they know it or not.
Whether they know it or not, whether they say it or not, they want your attention. And I can speak from being a father child, obviously having two dads. The experience that you have with a father is completely different than it is to just be mothered. It just is. Your level of understanding of who you are is so easy when you have a father. And this is not just for boys. This is for girls too.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you wanted to see a better world, get involved with your kids. I promise you the world will change.
Say that again.
I promise you
No, say
the
that
world
again.
will change if fathers get involved. And we know there's a bigger story that goes along with that. It's a lot of drama, but the drama will always be there. Your job is to fly through the drama without being messed up by it.
Love
Get involved with your kids.
Yeah.
They need you. They want you.
No, we kind of both talked about the word role, but I think presence is more important. And I know, like even for you, BJ, I know your father was active in your life, and you've had a present father. So, what would be your perspective on that?
Yeah, I know I am a very, very rare breed.
He's a father of fathers who are fathers' fathers' fathers. His father fathered him. In many ways, he fathered me.
Listen,
He's probably fathering you right now.
I receive.
you got a lot of kids out here.
That man is a father.
No, I joke with him when I call him Father Abraham because he has many sons.
Benny. Benny.
And I know, and of course I didn't know this until, or I didn't recognize this until I was older, but I know how blessed I am to have had an active, present father in my life. Beliefs, I know a measure of how blessed I am. I don't think I really even understand the full impact of how blessed I am. And even privileged I am to have had and still have my real father in my life, in the house, in the home, present on his post every single day, day in and day out. Day in and day out. Side note, somebody asked me, my uncle asked me, shout out Uncle Sean, he asked me a few years ago.
I thought you was going to say Uncle Boo.
Right.
What's his real name?
Uncle Robert.
Now that you know that. My uncle asked me some years ago,
Hey, Dave, gotta get a little bit more, just a tad bit.
he asked me what made, I don't know if he said my father different or my experience with my father different, and what type of impact that had on me. And the only thing I could think of, or maybe it was the main thing I could think of, was just that my dad was there every single day. Like, we didn't have emotional talks like that. We didn't have long-winded conversations like that. We didn't have all
The
these.
epitome of logic.
His presence was enough.
It was more than enough.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of one day where my dad didn't come home that night. That's what I told my uncle. I can't remember. Maybe it happened when I was younger. Maybe, I doubt it. I can't think of one day where my
I can
dad.
speak to that. I can definitely speak to that.
I can't think of one day in my memory of my dad not coming home any day or night. The consistency of getting up at 3, 4 a.m., sometimes 2:30, you hear him fumbling around, doing the same routine. I'm talking about 20 plus years and still does it today. To he coming home between 3 and 5, you hear that garage every single day. And you better have your act right when you come to the door. You better have your act right. And this is another conversation, like, I want to get into why does that put off culture so bad today, where a present man who brings the essence of strength in the house is diminished, or it's mocked sometimes, like.
Oh, we're gonna get into that.
Like, something about that, the culture today deems that somewhat toxic.
Yeah.
You gotta be softer, you gotta be this and that. Another conversation later on, hopefully. But anyway, back to what that did for me. I just know that I'm blessed to have had that model of consistency, and I just try to embody that every single day. Just whether you're mad, whether you're pissed, just come home. Still be home. You can't be nowhere else. You gotta be on your post.
Be home.
We ain't even gotta talk.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be there. You're gonna feel my presence in the house. So anyway, hopefully that answered the question.
His dad is the epitome of what I was talking about, logic as love, where we don't understand.
I'm going to say this. I grew up longing for my father. I grew up not always having that question in my head, like, where's my dad and why me? I grew up, our grandparents had a church, Victory Deliverance Center in Taft, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
I'm glad you said the name, because I totally forgot what the name was.
Yeah, man. Victory Deliverance Center, Taft, Florida, man. And I grew up living with my grandmother, living with my grandparents, my dad, and living on that
Shout out to Holly.
Yes.
God doing the breathing, I'm doing the believing.
Yes, sir. So that longing for a father was something I've always looked for. I taught myself how to play basketball. I taught myself how to play drums with the help of Uncle Barry, which is my dad, which is BJ's dad. But he's literally was my first dad. Like, he was the man that I always wanted to be around growing up. I didn't want to be around nobody else. If it wasn't Uncle Barry, I didn't want to be around no other man. I had a stepfather, which is my sisters and brothers' father. Very, I would say, I dealt with a lot of hurt and pain for what I seen that he did to my mother. Physically abusive, mentally, emotionally. And, growing up with him, he was one of the biggest drug dealers in Orlando. I remember literally staying at hotels and walking in a table like this, a round table, and there's cash all over. You got briefcase. He was like a businessman, but he was a dope dealer. And his drug house was right across the street from the church. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up like that. But I also grew up in this pain of, like, you're not my dad. we don't have nothing in common. I can't get anything from you. And the things that I did get from him was most of the times bad based off what I saw. I've also, you know, witnessed a point to where I thought my biological father came back in my life. The man, I have his last name, Timothy Wayne Henry Sr. Shout out to you. You know, I always was like, where's my dad? And then one day I'm living in Wood Hill Apartments. Wood Hill Apartments came, this was when they first, this was like the luxury apartments before luxury apartments came out. Like Wood Hill was the apartments.
It really was.
Like the luxury apartments before luxury apartments came out. And my cousin, you know, I found out that my uncle was the youth director in the community, got to know him, then I started to learn that side of the family, and then my cousin came over banging on our door and I was like, your daddy on the phone, and I was like, my eyes lit up. I'm that kid that's been longing for my dad for a long time, and all of a sudden I finally get a chance to actually hear his voice. Never saw him, never heard him, but I finally got that chance to hear his voice. And at this time, my sisters and brothers' dad was in the feds, doing fed time. And so what I experienced was that sense of, I finally got my dad. I finally got my dad. So now I would say there was a point where, you know, my dad came home from the Army, got a chance to meet him. Like, when I tell you it was the best feeling in the world, it was my dad. You couldn't tell me nothing.
Right.
Like, nobody finna come in between this that I've been longing for. I'm in the 5th grade. In the end of 5th grade, all summer, got my dad. My stepfather got out of the feds in 2000. Either 2000, yeah, it was 2000. And it was from that moment on, my life changed. Because now I have to deal with a man that I saw was abusive, that was very hurtful with his words, just very toxic. And I had to watch that all over again. To come to find out, and I'll wrap it up, I'm in middle school, go through middle school. Now this is 6th grade. We all been in 6th grade. We already know that's the start of a whole new life for you. I remember when my dad bought me a PlayStation. This is when the PlayStation first came out. And my stepdad came home, and I guess he was very mad and upset that I wouldn't call him dad. So he was like, you know, just very angry, upset. I'm gonna take your PlayStation away. I told him straight up, you ain't taking none. My daddy gave me that. Like, I was bold with that. Like, as a son, that is very, very personal to say my dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the conversation, the argument got so bad that when we got home, it got even worse between me and him. In each other's face, angry, just all of this. He said the most hurtful thing, and it really changed the course of my life for the rest of my life, that really hurt me, was that the nigga you think is your father is not your father. I'm in 6th grade.
Right.
You had your dad in your life, and a stepdad who came in who didn't try to be your dad. You didn't have your dad. You had your dad. I ain't had nothing. And then for another man to really say that out his mouth, I was so hurt to the point I looked at my mom in her eyes and I said, Mom, what is she talking about? She couldn't even say nothing. Come to find out, the whole family knew. So now I'm this kid who's lost, confused, hurt, bitter, angry. A kid who was very promising. A kid who was literally in a great space because I had my dad. Now I no longer have that relationship. And it was literally gone in less than a year.
His dad is the epitome of what I was talking about, logic as love, where we don't understand.
I'm going to say this. I grew up always having that question in my head, like, where's my dad and why me? You know, I grew up, you know, our grandparents had a church, Victory Deliverance Center in Taft, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
I'm glad you said the name, because I totally forgot what the name was.
Yeah, man. Victory Deliverance Center in Taft, Florida, man. And I grew up, living with my grandmother, living with my grandparents, my dad, and living on that
Shout out to
home.
Ali.
Yes.
God, you're in agreement, I'm going to believe.
Yes, sir. So that longing for a father was something I've always looked for. I taught myself how to play basketball. I taught myself how to play drums with the help of Uncle Barry, which is my dad, which is BJ's dad. But he literally was my first dad. Like, he was the man that I always wanted to be around growing up. I didn't want to be around nobody else. If it wasn't Uncle Barry, I didn't want to be around no other man. I had a stepfather, which is my sisters and brothers' father. Very, I would say, I dealt with a lot of hurt and pain for what I seen that he did to my mother. You know, physically abusive, mentally, emotionally, and, you know, growing up with him, he was one of the biggest drug dealers in Orlando. I remember literally staying at hotels and walking in a table like this, a round table with his cash all over. You got briefcase. He was like a businessman, but he was a dope dealer. And his drug house was right across the street from the church. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up like that. But I also grew up in this pain of, like, you're not my dad. We don't have nothing in common. I can't get anything from you. And the things that I did get from him was most of the times bad based off what I saw. I've also, you know, witnessed a point to where I thought my biological father came back in my life. The man, I have his last name, Timothy Wayne Henry Sr. Shout out to you. You know, I always was like, where's my dad? And then one day I'm living in Wood Hill Apartments. First, this was like the luxury apartments before luxury apartments came out. Like, Wood Hill was the apartments, like the luxury apartments before luxury apartments came out. And my cousin, you know, I found out that my uncle was the youth director in the community, got to know him, then I started to learn that side of the family, and then my cousin came over banging on our door one night, was like, your daddy on the phone, and I was like, my eyes lit up. I'm that kid that's been longing for my dad for a long time, and all of a sudden I finally get a chance to actually hear his voice. Never saw him, never heard him, but I finally got a chance to hear his voice. And at this time, my sisters and brothers that was in the feds, doing fed time. And so what I experienced was that sense of, I finally got my dad. I finally got my dad. So I would say there was a point where, you know, my dad came home from the Army, got a chance to meet him. Like, when I tell you it was the best feeling in the world, it was my dad. You couldn't tell me nothing. Like, nobody gonna come in between this that I've been longing for. I'm in the 5th grade. In the end of 5th grade, all summer, got my dad. My stepfather got in the feds in 2000. Either 2000, that was 2000. And it was from that moment on, my life changed. Because now I have to deal with a man that I saw was abusive, that was very hurtful with his words, just very toxic. And I had to watch that all over again. To come to find out, and I'll wrap it up, in middle school, go through middle school. Now this is 6th grade. We all been in 6th grade. We already know that's the start of a whole new life for you. I'm stepdad. My dad bought me a PlayStation. This is when the PlayStation first came out. And my stepdad came home. Like, I guess he was very mad and upset that I wouldn't call him dad. So he was like, you know, just very angry, upset. I'm gonna take your PlayStation. Well, I told him straight up, you can take it. No, my daddy gave me that. Like, I was bold with that. Like, as a son, that is very, very personal to say my dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that conversation, the argument got so bad that when we got home, it got even worse between me and him. In each other's face, angry, just all of this. He said the most hurtful thing and really changed the course of my life for the rest of my life that really hurt me was that the nigga you think is your father is not your father. I'm in 6th grade.
Right.
You had your dad in your life and a stepdad who came in who didn't try to be your dad. You didn't have your dad. You had your dad. I ain't had nothing. And then for another man to really say that out of his mouth, I was so hurt to the point I looked at my mom in her eyes and I said, Mom, what is she talking about? She couldn't even say nothing. Come to find out the whole family knew. So now I'm this kid who's lost, confused, hurt, bitter, angry, a kid who was very promising, a kid who was literally in a great space because I had my dad. Now I no longer have that relationship. And it was literally gone